Hey, everybody. For all of you out there working hard to learn English, I think you're going to love this deep dive.
I know I did.
It's all about how to remember English words quickly and effectively.
Exactly. And we found a great episode all about it called How to Remember English Words Fast.
So much good stuff in there.
Yeah,
We're going to be talking about some really interesting memory tricks
definitely.
and techniques that actually leverage the way our brains work.
Like the 5x5 rule.
Ooh, yeah, that one caught my eye too.
It's so interesting how this episode starts by talking about why we forget things.
Right.
Like, why do some words just disappear from our memory?
It's so frustrating.
Like comparing our brains to hard drives
Oh, interesting.
with limited space, but it goes even deeper than that.
Okay.
It's not just about the space, it's about making those words matter to our brains.
So it's not enough to just cram them in
No,
there?
no, it's about giving them a reason to stick around.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got to be more than just flashcards and repetition.
Exactly.
What's the key then?
Well, the episode gives this great example.
Okay.
Think about trying to remember a random phone number
Oh, yeah. Good luck with that.
versus trying to remember your best friend's birthday.
Totally different.
Right. One sticks with you, the other one, poof, gone.
Why is that, though?
It's all about context. That phone number, it's just a bunch of random digits.
Yeah.
But your friend's birthday, that's loaded with emotion, with memories, maybe even inside jokes.
Okay, so you're saying instead of just memorizing isolated English words,
Yeah.
we need to give them that kind of rich context.
Exactly, like creating vivid sentences that really bring them to life.
Oh, I like that.
So instead of just repeating delicious, delicious,
You know,
delicious.
because that's helpful.
Right,
Yeah.
you would create a sentence like, this slice of chocolate cake is absolutely delicious.
Now I'm hungry, but I see your point.
You can practically taste it, right?
I know you're making me crave cake.
But you're engaging more of your senses, and that makes it stick.
That actually makes me wonder
What?
why I'm so bad at remembering names.
Oh, yeah.
I never create any visual associations with them.
That's a great point. Our brains are wired for connections.
They love patterns,
So if you can link a new word, even a name, to something you already know.
like a picture or a sound or even a feeling.
Exactly. It's way more likely to stick.
Okay, that's really making me rethink how I approach learning new words.
We're glad to hear it.
So creating those personal sentences with vivid imagery is a great starting point.
Definitely.
But is that enough to really make it stick long term?
Well, the source recommends taking it a step further
Okay.
by using the word in multiple ways.
Ooh, interesting.
Like, let's say you're learning the word happy.
Okay,
You could say, I feel happy.
simple enough.
But you could also ask, what makes you happy?
Oh, that's good.
Or even use synonyms like joyful or content.
I see what you're doing there.
Each time you use the word in a different way, you're strengthening that connection in your brain.
So it's not just about memorizing a single definition.
No, it's about weaving that word into your understanding of the language.
That makes a lot of sense, and I bet it makes a big difference in fluency too.
Huge difference.
But, all this talk about connections and pathways in the brain,
Yeah.
is there like hard science behind this?
Absolutely. When we talk about creating those connections, we're literally talking about the hippocampus.
Okay, the hippocampus.
It's a part of the brain that's super important for forming new memories.
Okay, and when we add in those sensory details,
Like we were talking about with delicious,
right,
we're engaging another part of the brain called the amygdala.
the amygdala.
It's all about processing emotions and creating those really vivid memories.
So it's not just some touchy-feely learning theory. There's real brain science backing this up.
Exactly. We're hacking our brains to learn more effectively.
I love it, brain hacking for language learning.
It's amazing how much we're learning about how our brains work.
But even with science on our side, a lot of us still struggle to make new words stick.
It's true.
Is that where this 5x5 rule comes in?
You got it. This is where the rubber meets the road.
Let's hear it.
It's incredibly simple, actually.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
The 5x5 rule says use a new word 5 times a day for 5 days.
That's it.
That's it.
Okay, so let's say I'm trying to learn the word motivated.
Okay.
Do I just try to come up with 5 different sentences using motivated each day?
That's one way to do it.
Okay,
The beauty of this rule is that it encourages you to be creative.
I like that.
You might use it in different tenses, different contexts.
Even different parts of speech.
Exactly. The goal is repetition and active use.
So on day 1, I might say, I'm feeling motivated to learn English.
Perfect.
And on day 2, maybe I ask a friend what motivates you to work out.
You got it. By the end of those 5 days, you'll have used the word 25 times.
Wow.
It's like doing reps at the gym, but for your vocabulary.
I love that analogy.
It really emphasizes that consistency is key.
If you want to build those memory muscles.
Speaking of making things memorable,
Yeah.
this episode also talks about the power of engaging our senses.
We already talked about that a little with the delicious example.
We did, but let's take it a step further.
Okay, you're going to tell me to start smelling my dictionary now, aren't you?
Ha, not quite, but I like how you're thinking.
So what's the next level?
It's all about visualization.
Oh.
They use the word elephant as an example.
Elephant.
Don't just say the word, picture it in your mind.
A big gray elephant.
What color is it? How is it moving? Can you hear it trumpeting?
Okay, yeah, I can actually picture it now.
You see, the more vivid the image, the more deeply it's encoded in your memory.
So it's like the difference between reading about a place and actually going there.
Exactly. You're creating a richer, more memorable experience.
That's powerful stuff. I'm starting to see how all of these techniques work together.
They really do.
It's not just about brute force memorization.
Right.
It's about making those words come alive in our minds.
You got it. And that brings us to another key element, actually speaking those words out loud.
You know, I was just thinking about that.
Oh, yeah.
I've noticed that just saying a word out loud helps me remember it better.
It makes a huge difference.
But why?
It's the difference between passive consumption and active production.
Okay.
When you speak a word, you're engaging so many more parts of your brain.
Like what?
The motor cortex for controlling your speech muscles.
Oh, wow.
The auditory cortex for hearing yourself speak.
So you're hearing it and saying it.
And even the emotional centers of your brain can get involved.
It's like the difference between watching a cooking show and actually getting in the kitchen and cooking.
Exactly. So even if it feels silly, talking to yourself can really help solidify those new words.
Did the episode have specific suggestions for doing that?
They did.
Go ahead.
Well, they used the word improve as an example.
Okay.
Why don't you give it a try?
All right, here goes. I want to improve my English pronunciation.
Perfect.
Feels kind of silly.
Aha. I know, but can you feel that word settling in a bit more?
I think so.
The more you do it, the more natural it will become.
I can see that.
And you'll start to notice those new words flowing more easily in conversations.
This is fantastic.
Right.
So many practical tips.
I know.
We've covered a lot of ground already, but there's still more to explore.
There is.
So let's jump into the next part and see what other techniques and resources we can uncover
Sounds good to me.
to help us all supercharge our vocabulary.
Let's do it.
Wow. We've uncovered some serious brain hacks for making English words stick.
We have
Vivid sentences, engaging our senses,
the 5x5 rule.
even talking to ourselves like a bunch of crazy people.
Hey, whatever works right.
Exactly. But I'm curious, what about technology?
Oh, yeah.
Can it help us on this language learning journey?
Absolutely. There's a whole digital world out there ready to support us.
I mean, there are so many apps and tools these days.
It can be overwhelming.
So did the episode mention any specific ones that stand out?
It actually talks about apps like Duolingo, Anki, and Quizlet.
Oh, yeah. I've dabbled in Duolingo.
Have you?
I have. I gotta admit, I kind of like it.
What do you like about it?
It feels more like a game than like studying.
Exactly. And that's actually part of what makes these apps so effective.
Okay, but how so?
Well, for one, they tap into that gamification aspect like you mentioned.
Makes it fun.
But they also leverage a lot of the principles we've been talking about.
Okay.
They use visual elements,
Okay.
spaced repetition, personalized feedback.
All those things that help us remember.
Exactly. It's like having a digital language tutor right in your pocket.
I like that, a digital tutor.
Always there to help you practice.
And I'm thinking these apps probably make it easier to be consistent too.
Oh, absolutely.
Instead of feeling like I have to block off hours for studying,
Right.
I can just squeeze in a few minutes here and there on Duolingo.
It's all about making language learning fit into our busy lives.
I appreciate that.
And even if you're not a big app person,
Yeah.
there are other tech tools that can be super helpful.
Like what?
Online dictionaries,
Okay.
pronunciation guides,
Makes sense.
even language exchange platforms.
Oh, cool. So you can actually connect with native speakers.
It's amazing what's out there.
Speaking of connecting with others,
Yeah.
the episode also talks about immersion.
One of my favorite topics.
I've always felt like the best way to learn a language is to really surround yourself with it.
Couldn't agree more, and the episode really emphasizes that.
Making English part of your daily life?
Not just something you study in isolation.
Right. So what were some of the suggestions?
Well, they talked about changing your phone language to English,
Okay, I could see that.
watching movies and TV shows in English,
Fun?
Listening to English music.
Yes.
Even trying to read simple books or articles in English.
It's like creating your own little English-speaking world.
Exactly, even if you're not living in an English-speaking country.
You know, that reminds me, when I was learning Spanish, I started watching telenovelas with subtitles.
That's a great idea.
It was so fun, and I picked up new words without even realizing it.
That's awesome, and it shows that immersion doesn't have to be this big, scary thing. It can be as simple as incorporating small, enjoyable activities into your routine.
And the more you do it,
Yeah.
the more natural English will start to feel.
Absolutely. It's all about those frequent exposures.
The more we encounter the language,
But in different contexts,
the stronger those neural pathways become.
it's like building a muscle.
I like that.
You gotta keep working it out.
Okay, so we've got tech tools, immersive
Oh,
experiences.
can check.
But what about those good old-fashioned learning methods?
Like what?
Like writing things down,
Oh, yeah.
keeping a vocabulary notebook.
There's definitely still a place for that.
So does the episode talk about that at all?
It does. It actually suggests creating what it calls a personal word bank.
A personal word bank.
It can be a physical notebook or even a note on your phone
Okay.
where you record new words and those example sentences you've created.
Like a personalized dictionary.
Exactly tailored to the words and phrases that are most relevant to you.
I love that. And, you know, there's something about physically writing things down
I know what you mean.
that just helps cement them in my memory.
There's a reason why note-taking has stood the test of time.
It does.
It forces you to engage with the material more actively.
And process it on a deeper level.
Plus, having that physical record
Or digital.
makes it easier to go back and review those words regularly.
Which is key for moving them from short-term to long-term memory.
That's the goal.
Okay, so we've got tech tools, immersive experiences,
Yes.
good old-fashioned note-taking.
It's all about finding what works for you.
What other nuggets of wisdom did this episode offer?
Well, it reminds us that even with all these amazing resources and techniques,
Yeah.
the most important factor is consistency.
Ah, consistency. That word keeps coming up.
And for good reason.
Why is that?
Because the episode emphasizes that building a strong vocabulary,
Takes time.
it's an achievable goal, but it requires ongoing commitment.
It's about those small daily actions.
And add up to big results over time.
It's like anything else we want to get good at, right? Like playing an instrument or learning to code
It's those small, consistent steps.
that ultimately lead to mastery.
I love that analogy.
It really puts things in perspective.
And I think it's important to remember that consistency doesn't have to mean rigid, boring routines.
No, it doesn't.
It's about finding what works for you.
What keeps you motivated and engaged?
Maybe it's setting aside a specific time each day for language practice.
Okay.
Or maybe it's finding creative ways to incorporate English into your everyday life.
So finding that sweet spot where learning feels enjoyable and sustainable.
Exactly. It's got to be something you can stick with.
This is all making me realize
What?
that this whole conversation has implications way beyond just learning English.
It does.
These techniques and principles could be applied to so many other areas of our lives.
I think you're right.
Like what?
Whether you're learning a new skill, studying for a test,
Even just trying to remember where you parked your car.
these strategies can help make those memories stick.
It's like we've been given these mental tools
Powerful tool.
that we can use to tackle any learning challenge.
I love that.
And it's so empowering to think about.
It is.
Okay, before we get too carried away,
Yeah.
let's move on to the final part of this deep dive
Sounds good.
and see what other insights we can glean from this episode.
Let's do it.
It's amazing how we always think about memory like it's this fixed thing.
Yeah, like you're either born with a good memory or you're not.
Exactly. But this whole deep dive has made me see it differently.
How so?
It's more like a skill,
okay.
something you can actually get better at
Oh, I like that.
with the right techniques.
So instead of just thinking, oh, I'm bad with names,
Right.
you can actually try these different strategies
Like visualization or the 5x5 rule.
and see if they actually make a difference.
It's empowering. It makes me wonder what else I've just dismissed as not being my thing.
When maybe you just haven't found the right approach.
Exactly. This episode has got me feeling like I could learn anything.
That's the spirit. It's not just about memorizing facts and figures.
No, it's not.
It's about cultivating a love for learning.
That curiosity that keeps you going.
Speaking of curiosity,
Yeah.
there's one thing that really stood out to me in this episode.
Like that.
The idea that these memory techniques could be applied to other areas of learning as well?
Oh, totally. It's not just about language.
Exactly. The principles are universal.
Active recall.
Spaced repetition.
Creating those meaningful connections.
It can all be applied to learning a new instrument.
Mastering a coding language.
Even just remembering where you put your keys.
It's like we've been given this secret weapon.
To unlock our learning potential.
Okay, so let's say someone's listening to this and they're feeling inspired to take on a new challenge.
Like finally mastering English.
Or anything, really.
Where would you suggest they start?
I would say start small.
Small goals.
Achievable goals.
And create a plan that incorporates these techniques.
Break it down into manageable steps.
And celebrate those little victories along the way.
Don't be afraid to experiment.
Find what works for you.
It's all about that journey of discovery.
One thing the episode didn't really touch on, though.
What's that?
Motivation.
Ah, yes, motivation, the key ingredient.
All these techniques are great, but you got to have that drive.
How do we stay motivated?
I think it comes down to finding your why.
Your why.
Why are you learning English? What are you hoping to achieve?
Connecting to that deeper purpose.
It can really fuel your motivation.
And help you get through those tough moments.
Because there will be challenges.
But having that vision
of what you're working towards.
Whether it's traveling the world, connecting with new people.
Or just the joy of being fluent.
Just makes it all worthwhile.
And don't forget to celebrate those milestones along the way.
Yes. Acknowledge your progress.
Give yourself credit for how far you've come.
So to all our fellow language learners out there,
fluency is within your reach.
Embrace the journey.
Have fun.
And never stop exploring.
The incredible world of learning.
We hope this deep dive has given you some practical tools and a renewed sense of motivation.
To conquer your language learning goals.
And who knows? Maybe it's even sparked a curiosity to learn something new.
The world is full of fascinating things to discover.
Until next time, happy learning, everyone.
Happy learning.